What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. This is the 1 month review of the Adler Yatagarashu, and I am super excited to share my thoughts about this boot. It's been a little bit. I've been out of the country. I've been training on off season, so thank you for your patience. I have absolutely beaten the heck out of these boots. They are totally dirty and really well worn in, and I'm really excited to share with you my thoughts. So we're going to start with the Soleplate today. So the Soleplate is very simple, conical studs, kind of mirrors a lot of the patterns of the sort of classic leather boots, the competition, which we'll talk a little bit about later, the Morelia 2, some of the Panzafolo d'Oro boots, excuse me for the pronunciation, and then Copa Mundial are kind of that same vibe of shoe, and this follows suit very much. So you've got the 4 conical studs in the back, and then you've got your 8 conical studs in the forefoot area here. The thing that separates this Soleplate from other Soleplates is that it's got a Carvo insole in it. And if you guys haven't seen my initial review, go check that out first. But you can see in here, there is this almost like carbon looking weave here in the Soleplate. And what that is a product that's actually used by Mizuno as well. And what it does is it adds an incredible amount of snapback for a boot that, for all intents and purposes, looks like sort of your Sunday league boot. And we'll talk about why that's not the case in a sec. But this Soleplate really does do a fantastic job of getting a ton of grip in the ground, both here on artificial ground pitches as well as firm ground pitches. As you can see, there's quite a bit of mud on here as well. I've worn them on some natural grass, which is actually right over here, about 20 meters away from me. And they perform fantastic on both. Gives you plenty of grip into the ground, lots of pivot power because of these conical studs, and really no risk for people playing on artificial ground as well as firm ground. So for me, the only reason that this isn't gonna get top marks, especially because of that Carvo insole in here, is because I tend to prefer something a little bit more aggressive, and that's just the way I prefer it. So for me, this is a 7.5 out of 10 for the Soleplate. Really fantastic work from Adler. Next, we're gonna talk about heel area. So the heel area is really good as well. This is quite a nice accommodating fit for most heel types. I am somebody who has a wide midfoot, a wide toe box, but a really thin heel area. And so for me, sometimes fitting in football boots just in general can be a little bit tough, especially boots like this that tend to have a lot more of a clunky look. But in reality, this heel actually does a fantastic job with this nice internal heel counter. It's got a really nice structure to it, but because of the shape, you can see it's a little bit more padded on either side of the Achilles tendon. That really gives a nice locked in feel. Plus you've got this nice almost micro suede. It doesn't feel like suede in the sense of say like a Recaro seat in a car or a suede liner from something like the Asics brand. Those are really suede like. This is a much more microfiber. Hope you can see that. It's a lot more microfibery and doesn't have the same amount of material, I guess, but it is still provides that anti-slip grip. So for me, this is an 8.5 out of 10 in the heel area. No blisters, no big deal. Again, the only reason why it's marked half a point down from the top marks I can give is just because I prefer something that has a little bit more bite to it, but this is perfectly adequate for what this boot is. All right, now we're gonna move on to the meat and potatoes of what this boot is, and that is this amazing K leather upper. This upper has been through hell and back. I've worn it in all sorts of conditions, as I mentioned before, and it is so soft, so premium. In the unboxing, you guys could see my reaction at how unbelievably soft and plush this was, and it stayed that way. And for the sake of this review, I really wanted to wear this boot for, now it's been 2 months, I guess, since the review has come out, but I wanted to wear it and not do anything to the leather. So no leather food, no treatment. I did clean it off with some water and a sponge, but that's really gently. I didn't do anything to the leather, anything to make it more premium as I kept wearing it. So the whole point of that was to give you guys the most raw sensation of what it was like after you broke it in. And these are incredible. This leather upper is probably one of my favorites on the market as far as how thin it is, how well structured it is, but from the standpoint of durability and stuff, which we'll talk about in a sec, and plushness. So it gives you a little bit more plushness here in this forefoot area, and then the leather in this instep where you would pass the ball or on the outside is so thin. It genuinely is mind-blowing how comfortable these are straight out of the box. And for me, it gets absolute top marks because it is really hard to beat a leather boot that's been worn and is so soft still. Was incredibly soft out of the box, super premium materials, doesn't really hold water that bad as well. So in wet conditions, yes, it's going to be a little bit more wet than say a knit boot or a synthetic boot, but it doesn't hold water as much as something like even a Tiempo Legend 9, which I found held water a ton. So for me, this is a 9 out of 10 upper. This upper is absolutely top class, and I would recommend this for really anybody looking for a leather football boot. So because the upper is so soft and so premium, one of the things that I found it to be a little bit lacking is the lockdown. Now, this lacing system does a really good job of being able to pull tight, but because this boot is meant for players of all foot shapes, there's only so much adjustability you can get in the lacing system as the leather starts to stretch. And so the lockdown, which is what we're talking about now, struggles just a little bit. It's not anything crazy. I can still do anything that I would want to do on a football pitch. Just for me, from a performance standpoint, as far as high performance training, doing agility, and again, I try so many different boots, so this rating is probably going to be lower than most people would rate these boots, simply because I know what insane lockdown feels like. But at the end of the day, this is a 6.5 out of 10 for lockdown. Just the upper doesn't have quite that wrapping sensation that, say, a speed boot or even something like more of a control boot does as you shift laterally back and forth. So for break-in time for the Yatagarashu, it is getting a 9 out of 10. And the reason for that is because there was zero break-in time. It's now on the list of 3 boots on the market that I can jump into, potentially 4, maybe, that I can jump into with zero break-in time. Put them on, tie the laces as tight as I want to, no pain, no hot spots. And to be fair, this boot was a little bit tight out of the box. And there was a little bit of space here in the toe area, but the break-in time was literally zero. It took me about 2 minutes to kind of get my feet into the bottom of the boot, get used to the way the boots feel, and then it was off to the races. So 9 out of 10 for break-in time, regardless of what type of foot you have, whether you have a wide foot, a thin foot, you are not gonna have any issues with break-in time. And if you're looking for one of the most comfortable boots straight out of the box on the market, the Adler Yatagarashu is the way to go. Now on to durability and build quality. We'll mix those kind of together because I think they go hand in hand. Absolutely perfect. No issues. Again, this is without any leather food. This is without any leather treatment during the course of me wearing this boot over the last couple months, and they are absolutely exceptional. One of the things that you often see on artificial ground is right where you kick the ball here, you get some separation of the upper from the sole plate. Number one, fantastic build quality, but number two, they have stitching, as you can see, all the way around that's actually stitched into the sole plate. So you have the upper that's just, even if the glue came off, you'd still have a proper amount of stitching that would get this solid to the sole plate. So for me, this is a 9 out of 10 as far as build quality. The quality of materials is absolutely top class, definitely up there with the likes of Mizuno and Asics and some of these really, really quality brands. And for me, this is a 9 out of 10. Now let's talk about shape and fit. As I mentioned before, this will fit most foot types, whether you have a thin foot or a wider foot. For me, this boot probably is more suited towards a little bit wider feet, wider and flatter feet. They do come, this is a Japanese company, so my understanding is that oftentimes Mizuno products, Asics products, they're meant for a little bit wider and flatter feet. And these are definitely in that area, in that sort of that niche, I would say. I fall into that niche. I have pretty wide, pretty flat feet, and so these fit me really, really well, but I'm gonna knock it down a few points just because the shape is a little bit, I would say accommodating for the wider foot shape, whereas it might not be accommodating for the thinner foot type, especially here in the forefoot area. It's quite a bit of width, but I do think it's adjustable for most. So again, it's gonna get an 8 out of 10, so really good marks. But again, as I said, if you have stupid wide feet, this is probably the best boot you can buy as far as premium quality, fit, and everything, because it will give you tons of stretch. And what I would recommend doing is, I believe, so these go half a size down or a full size down. If you're a thinner foot type and you really want to get into these boots, go a full size down from I'm going from US sizing. So from US sizing, go a full size down. I went half a size down, and the fit on the toe is absolutely perfect. I do have wider feet though, so do keep that in mind. So if you have wider feet, go half size down. If you have thinner feet, go a full size down. This gets an 8 out of 10 for fit and shape. Okay, so let's talk about the competition. So where does this fall in the rank of classic leather boots? So I mentioned before Pantoffolo d'Oro. I'm gonna mispronounce it again, I apologize. The Copa Mundial and the Morelia 2. If I've left any out of that list, comment down below. But for me, these 4 boots are what you would consider as some of the best classic leather boots on the market. And for me, these fall at the top of the list. And the reason for that mainly has to do with, number one, the premium quality leather of the upper, which I do think Mizuno matches. And in some cases, if you are interested in a little bit more of a plush feeling, the Mizuno is actually the boot to go for. This is a much thinner leather boot, so it gives you a surprising barefoot sensation on feet while also being leather and moldable and comfortable. So that to me is more important. I tend to prefer, I like a thinner leather upper. I think it's nice, just similar to the Montebelluna Tiempos. I love how they took out the padding in that forefoot area. Really, really fantastic boots. These kind of follow suit from that. And then there is no getting around this Soleplate. As far as responsiveness and as far as comfort and the ability to really get that reactionary energy into your movement, this Soleplate is far and away the best in class, so to speak, from those 4 boots that I mentioned. Obviously the Pantoffolo d'Oros, those are gonna be a range of boots, but they're all classic leather boots, so to speak. And this absolutely crushes all of those in my opinion. Morelia 2 is close. It's a good Soleplate. It's very basic. It's very classic. But the fact that this has the Carvo in it, it is so responsive, honestly more responsive than a lot of other non-classic boots on the market in my opinion. This actually, I would say, has more snapback than a Phantom GX, and so, which is kind of crazy to think. So for that reason, this in the grand scheme of the competition for me falls at the top of the list as far as classic leather boots. So if that's what you're on the market for, this is my #1 pick right now. All right, last 2 categories, we're gonna talk about performance. So performance, as I mentioned, suffers a little bit because of the lockdown, but for me, this is one of the best performing classic leather boots on the market. It's really hard to beat. Honestly, because of the shape of the boot, I'm probably gonna pick this over something like a Tiempo. The regular Tiempo, the Montebelluna is a step above this for me, just as far as the shape, but this is a fantastic performing football boot, especially given how classic it is, how elegant it looks. I love the look of this shoe on feet. I think it looks great. I think there's no distractions. You really get a seamless fit and feel, especially with how thin this leather upper is. So for me, the overall performance of this boot is going to be a 7 out of 10. And again, you might think, why isn't it higher? It's a 7 out of 10 for me because I'm gonna choose to wear other things that are higher performing, so to speak, in the upper area. Maybe they have grip elements, blah, blah, blah. This is just my personal rating system. So for me, this is a 7 out of 10. Very good, but not quite where I would want it to be for a game or a training session. And finally, the overall rating of the Adler Yatagarashu. This is a boot that I have so enjoyed playing with. I know I haven't mentioned it before, but thank you to the Gaijin Boot blog for sourcing these for me, for getting these for me. I know he's involved, Andrew, he's involved in the company as well, so he has a more intimate understanding of the quality of these. Definitely go check out his blog. But thank you so much for giving these to me because I have thoroughly enjoyed wearing these. These are one of my favorite boots to slip on anytime I'm looking for a boot that is just no nonsense. I can step into, be super comfortable, and just knock and play and have fun with friends. This is the boot that I go for. It's absolutely a boot that you could use for high performance games and stuff, absolutely. It's just not my personal pick, but overall, given the leather quality, given the quality of the sole plate, given how cool and classic it looks, for me, this is an 8 out of 10 football boot. Excellent, excellent football boot, top of its class in my opinion, and for that I would recommend it to anyone with really any shape of foot. That is the beauty of this Adler Yatagarashu. It's going to be exceptional for most people, and for that reason it gets really good marks from me. If you guys enjoyed that video, if you guys want more 1 month reviews on the classic leather boots, hit me down in the comments below. Let me know if I've forgotten anything in that competition list, what you guys want to see next for the 1 month review. As always, be awesome, take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.